Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Welcome to welcome to day 60 of wait a minute, y'all. Let me get my little stuff together here. Yeah, when you got these cameras, you don't know which one is looking at who. But welcome to the happy new day of day 60 of the Free to Hope as we present the 12 steps being applied to COVID-19. Yes, I am a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, the original 12-step program that was customized and operated in the 1930s, over 80 plus years ago. And for the past 30 years, and if God continues to allow me to breathe and to wake me up on February the 23rd, we will celebrate 31 years free from alcoholism, drug addiction, and all its related attitudes, ideas, and behaviors. And for that, I am truly grateful. But he also delivered me and 7 of my family members from COVID-19 back in November and December of 2020. So I am truly, truly grateful that I can breathe, I can smell, I can taste, I can feel, I can see, I can hear. Only by the grace of God. And before we get started in our morning recovery conversation, I want us to give homage to the Creator that breathed life into you this morning, that breathed life into me this morning, who woke you up this morning and woke me up this morning. No, it wasn't the alarm clock. It wasn't the trash truck. It wasn't even the kids or the grandkids. It was the Creator. And he decided this day, this moment, this second to breathe life into you. And we need to give him homage. While we're doing that, we want to give homage to the human race who is suffering through this coronavirus pandemic and all of its variants that are among us, and more are coming. But we want to specifically give homage to those who have transitioned from COVID-19, the family members who are left behind and are dealing themselves with the repercussions of their decisions, their choices regarding COVID-19, those who are presently suffering from COVID-19, those of us who are intervening on behalf of those suffering from COVID-19, those of us like myself who are in recovery from COVID-19, those who are yet rebellious and defiant regarding this COVID-19 and may still believe it's a hoax and it can happen to everybody else but to me. So in other words, we want to give 30 seconds of silence for the entire human race, whether you're in the prevention mode, intervention mode, restoration mode, whether you're being proactive, reactive, inactive, or responsible regarding COVID-19, because the world simultaneously is going through this in one way, shape, form, or fashion. And in our 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, they say all human beings are ill to some extent, but there is a solution because all human beings can benefit from the wisdom of the 12-step program as described by Dr. Scott T. Allison. And after our 30 seconds of silence on behalf of the entire human race and giving homage to our Creator, I will present more information regarding the sources that I use, Dr. Scott T. Allison, as well as Jason Waller's breakdown of the 12 steps in the most simplistic form I've ever seen. So let's give 30 seconds of silence. Join me, please. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to also thank you on behalf of those who cannot say thank you, those who don't want to say thank you, those who resist saying thank you. I've learned that I can be the intercessor of all those in any way, shape, form, or fashion to say thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so this is day 60. Now, this is day 60 of my journey, my process, my recovery of contracting and surviving COVID-19. I hit that button on December the 3rd, and what you will see then is not what you see now. As a result of contracting COVID-19 and presenting the transparency to let you know what COVID looked like on me, then go back to my podcast from December the 3rd up until now. I've learned basically on December the 3rd to take off all the mask, because I got in touch with putting on the mask that's designed to save my life. So the mask that you see now pay homage to my ancestors. This is Black History Month, and I took off all the other masks and represent my culture, my tradition, my heritage. I know that I come from a lineage of kings and queens, and what you see is my crown, and the makeup represents my royalty of my heritage and my culture and my tradition. So you too can do the same thing. But at the end of the day, we all belong to the same race, and that's the human race. So therefore, I can start with mine, my loved ones, my culture, my community, my city, my state, my country, and you can do the same thing. When we do this individually and collectively, we can stop the perpetuation of this COVID-19 and its devastating impact, effects, outcomes, and fatalities. You can be a part of the solution. So let's get started with this conversation. Do you mind if I take a sip of coffee? I don't drink anymore. 30 plus years ago, right? I did, but not now. I can breathe, I can smell, I can taste, and you can't imagine how grateful I am just to be able to do those simple things that I just mentioned, only by the grace of God. So I mentioned Dr. Scott T. Allison, because back in March of 2020, on March the 31st, I received an article from my good friend and home group member, Stephanie J. And she said, Edwina, you've been talking about your free tour. You've been talking about going and sharing around the world about the 12 steps. Listen, this doctor mentioned the 12 steps in dealing with this COVID-19. And when I got the article and I read it, I was like, oh, wow, thank you, Lord. I can continue to share my experience, my strength, my hope, and my wisdom regarding the 12 steps. Now I can apply it to COVID-19 based on this gentleman's article, right? And so I do want to share with you his article briefly that prompted me to hit that button on April the 1st of 2020 so that I can share the information as it relates to COVID-19. So the first thing I need to do is to upload it. See, listen, y'all need to have some patience with me. And as a result of having patience with me, we can learn to do these things collectively, and we can learn to practice these principles like right now while I am attempting to bring up what I need. So y'all just bear with me. And somebody told me the other day, we need to stop squinching, put your glasses on. Voila, I can see. So I'm going. Here I am. Listen. That I love technology, but I love figuring it out too. All right. So let me go and get Dr. Scott's article. It's right here. And I'm going to let's see. Why is it not coming up? Well, I'm going to figure it out again. But let me tell you. So Dr. Scott T. Allison, right? He had written an article in Psychology Today that talked about how we as a community can utilize the 12 recovery principles, right? And I think I have it now. So I want to be able to share it with you in the month of April. And he was able to use the Alanine approach, right? And talking about, okay, I have it here. So let's go to it. So in that article, he mentioned how the wisdom of the 12-step programs can help get us through April, which was the first month that we experienced and was asked to do the quarantine, okay? And so as a result of that, I hit that button on April the 1st. So the 7 points that Dr. Scott T. Allison focused on, and again, repetition is important in recovery. You looking at me is not that important. I would rather you look at the message and not the messenger. And so the 7 points that he applied by using the Al-Anon 12-step program says, 1, letting go. Human beings are designed to seek control and to seize it whenever possible. During a pandemic when so much is out of our control, the best gift we can give ourselves is to follow the serenity prayer made so famous by the 12-step programs. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The prayer encourages us to let go of the things we cannot change and to focus on the things we can control. Letting go calms us and assures us that we neither designed nor able to fix the entire world. And so that is crucial in learning what letting go means. So let's go to the next screen, which says patience. One of the central ideas of 12-step programs is the notion that in any crisis, there are rarely quick fixes. A crazy addiction or a crazy pandemic didn't happen overnight, and it won't resolve itself overnight either. And this is all regarding COVID-19, applying the Al-Anon approach to using the same 12 recovery principles. Keeping the focus on oneself. Al-Anon teaches its members that the solution to most problems resides in our own attitudes and mindsets. Spiritual teachers throughout the ages have cautioned against taking the mental stories in our heads too seriously. A pandemic quarantine offers an opportunity for stillness and solitude, two keys to calming ourselves and changing the self narrative to gratitude and to letting go of the need to control things beyond our own individual lives. Okay. Moving on, we're going to go to the next slide, which talks about trust. The fourth point he mentions is the 12-step programs emphasize the importance of trusting that even while things seem to be going wrong, there is a deeper, more long-term perspective that we can take. Such a perspective sees the potential good in any situation. We can trust that despite appearances, a power, capital P, greater than ourselves is in charge and will somehow provide solutions that we are unaware of right now. Trust means, again, letting go of control and having faith that the world is slowly but surely healing itself. Many of you know that this is not the first pandemic man has experienced, and it won't be the last. All right. So let's go to number 5, living in the present. One of the most important of 12-step recovery programs is the practice of staying in the present moment, right here, right now. Our minds can easily wander to the past, where regrets or resentments lie waiting for us, or to the future, where anxieties lurk. There are no problems in the present moment, right here, right now. Only challenges that can be met one at a time, one moment at a time. Staying in the present keeps our fears at bay and converts our problems into bite-sized, manageable issues that we can easily deal with. That makes sense? Of course it does. You have to practice it, though. Let's go to number 6. It says social connections. It has been said that every person with addictions sore spot is the feeling of isolation, of being socially disconnected. Yet psychologists know that the need to belong is central to every model of human well-being. All 12-step programs strongly encourage their members to find a mentor, a sponsor who can walk the path of life with us, particularly during this COVID-19. We each need to have one or more persons we can turn to for advice, for comforting words, for companionship, even if it's over Zoom or the phone or this podcast. Reaching out to people, even just texting them, can promote well-being. And let's go to the last point that Dr. Allison mentions, and that is the 7th one that says service to others. The 12th and final step of recovery program states that the key to maintaining our own emotional well-being is to help, encourage, and comfort others. Each one of us possesses a gift to share with the world, whether it is painting, writing, singing, or simply listening. The latest research is very, very clear. When we reach out to help others, we are helping ourselves get better too. So let's see what these 12 spiritual principles are. They are: we admitted we were powerless over COVID-19, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity regarding COVID-19. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him regarding COVID-19. Made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves regarding COVID-19. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs regarding COVID-19. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all our character defects regarding COVID-19. And we want to go to the next slide, which states the remaining steps. And it says, 7, humbly ask Him to remove our shortcomings regarding COVID-19. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all regarding COVID-19. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others regarding COVID-19. 10, continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it regarding COVID-19. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will and the power to carry it out regarding COVID-19, and having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to others regarding COVID-19 and to practice these principles in all our affairs. So, when you look at how Gamblers Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, Al-Anon Anonymous, what about a COVID-19 Anonymous? So we can apply the same spiritual principles that were adopted by the founding 12-step fellowship called Alcoholics Anonymous, so that we too can experience the spiritual transformation that these spiritual principles can offer, that will help to increase our spiritual maturity so that we can obtain a psychic change, as Dr. Bob, Bill, and Dr. Carl Jones said regarding alcoholism, right? That we can obtain that psychic change to look at our old attitudes, ideas, and behaviors that are still with us today, and incorporate and embrace and analyze and apply and practice these principles that are spiritual in nature in all our affairs. And we can achieve the same solutions, the same outcomes that alcoholics and drug addicts do. We can also be that regarding COVID-19. As you can see, me and 7 of my family members survived COVID-19. But just like my alcoholism and drug addiction, I contributed to it, and I contributed to contracting COVID-19. I couldn't get myself out of my addiction and my alcoholism and related behaviors, but a power greater than me could. The same thing with COVID-19. I contributed to contracting it by being defiant, by being rebellious, by having that invincible attitude, ego, egotistical, prideful, self-centered, selfish, right? But it was only God that delivered me and my 7 family members from COVID-19. So a lot of things that we get ourselves into, we apply these same 12 spiritual principles, and it's Him that will get us out. Whether you believe in God, you can call Him a higher power, you can call Him the creator. Guess what? It's not you and it's not me. And so people ask, why you repeat so much? Guess what? Repetition is so important. We can't emphasize that enough in the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous and other 12-step programs. Because you know why? When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When the student is ready to go to the next level, the teachers will appear. When the student is struggling, the teachers will appear. In other words, we are making progress towards spiritual maturity, and repetition is very important, because sometimes we hear things, but we need to practice listening, because listening implies action. So it's no big secret. You know, repetition is important for those who need to be reminded, those who are being introduced, and those who need to be encouraged. It's amazing how almost 31 years later, I can still read things and hear things that did not infiltrate my mindset. But today, when I read them or see them, wow, the light bulb goes off, okay? So what I want to do now is to go to our continuation of the 4th step, which we are on. This is, I believe, part 8, and the conclusion of made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves regarding COVID-19. And so again, we are going to review, and we will pick up where we need with the questions that were posed by Jason Waller. And again, go to Jason Waller, Jason, and you will see there the breakdown of all the steps, and you will also experience what many of us have experienced in the 12-step program, and as a matter of fact, in all the 12-step programs. So Jason Waller, JasonWahler. Do your own research, do your own history, apply them to yourself. All right, because if you're like me, I'm from Missouri. I hear you, but show me. All right, so let me show you this breakdown and review before we continue with the conclusion of recovery principle number 4. All right, so recovery principle number 4, made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. What does a moral inventory mean to you? Moral means concerned with the principles of right, wrong behavior and the goodness and badness of human character. I shared with you that in taking my moral inventory and looking at how I contributed to contracting COVID-19, there were some things I did wrong. There was a lot of things I did wrong. There was a few things I did right. There were some good things that I did, but there was a lot of bad things that I did, and me contributing to contracting COVID-19, as well as affecting and infecting my loved ones as well. So let's go to the next slide, and we're going to examine it a little more. And so with me being in this process for over 30 plus years, I had to go back to where those attitudes, ideas, and behaviors related to my decision making, the choices that I made, and to determine which ones were destructive to my character and which ones could enhance my integrity. All right. So we also emphasize the need to go back in your history to find out where certain attitudes, ideas, and behaviors was formulated. Then we ask you to describe the scene. What was the scenario, whether it be in your family, a relationship, the community work? What was the scene? What was the scenario that brought about that attitude, idea, and behavior? Next, what are some of your fondest memories? Balancing act, assets and liabilities, earliest recollection of fun times. And then last, what about some of your challenging times, experience, episodes? Can you describe your feelings at the time? And so when I go back and look at my behavior, my bad choices regarding COVID-19, I did not do everything that I was supposed to do. So now, when we do the fourth step, one of the first character defects we want to outline is our resentments. And so I explained to you on another podcast how I apply resentments to my family members, starting with my mother, and why I had a resentment against her because of her getting attention from my dad. What feelings did it create? Jealousy. How did it affect me? My self-esteem, and what part did I play in it? I was manipulative. So when I take the same recovery principle now and apply these 12 steps using the first character defects that's known to many and most of us really is the resentment against this COVID-19. So here's an example that I use. I have a resentment against the creation of the virus. I don't know who, what, when, and where. And so we learned that it is a living organism, right? And it will multiply and duplicate and replicate itself. It's a living, it's a living organism, and it looks to find bodies and things to occupy, to be put on. And so I have a resentment against the creation of the virus. Why? Because it creates uncertainty in the whole entire human race and everything that's in it that we use or that is at our disposal. I'm waiting for the animals. I'm waiting for all the living other organisms that's in the world to be impacted some way, shape, form, or fashion by COVID-19. So the reason why I have a resentment against COVID-19 is the creation of it, and it creates uncertainty. The feelings I have, like most of us, anger, anxiety, fear, confusion, frustration, right? Depression, right? Any and all kinds of feelings, they are mixed regarding the uncertainty and the creation of this coronavirus and the upcoming and existing variants that are here. What and how did it affect us? It affected our entire existence, right? Most of us, listen, some of us can die. Some of us get severely sick. Now with this vaccine, there's some information. There's some stories that are confusing people even the more, right? But the effect of that resentment affects my entire existence. And then what part did I play in it? What part did we play in it? We are just innocent victims, okay? But I also shared with you that I had a resentment against myself because I contributed to contracting COVID-19. Why? Because I took it for granted, defiant, rebellious, having that feeling of being invincible, right? What feelings did I have? I have feelings now of regret, stupidity, grief, because some of my grandchildren could have died. I could have died. And so how and what did it affect? It affected members of my family aged 2 through 78. And what part did I play in it? I did not heed to all the CDC's suggestions. And you see that last word, consistently. No, I did not. So let's go and talk about the questions that Jason Waller poses. So we know that when I extracted Jason Waller's template of all the breakdowns of the 12 steps, even though a foundation is laid, he uses other resources coupled with his own experience, strength, and hope, and he puts them in a simplistic form to challenge our thinking, to challenge our attitudes, ideas, our behavior, so that we can understand the importance of these spiritual principles. And most times people, they may read something, but they don't really get it until you ask them some questions. And when you ask them some questions, they are forced to think. They are forced to evaluate. They are forced to analyze. And so that's why these questions posed by Jason Waller is essential. I will inject my personal experience, strength, and hope, wisdom, lack of wisdom, bad choices, bad decisions regarding me contributing to contracting COVID-19. Okay. And so as you can see, I briefly showed you, and I'm going to ask you, are you now, and have you, did your behavior contribute to your resentment regarding COVID-19? How have your resentments affected your life, your relationship with others, and yourself regarding this COVID-19? Who and what do you fear and why regarding this COVID-19? And how do you respond destructively and negatively to your fears? I'm reading them all now. Who or what do you feel ashamed or guilty about? And the last one was, or is, what feelings do you have the most trouble allowing yourself to feel, and how do you act out? So we stopped at number 3, and we will start with question number 4. But let's go back to the third one that says, who and what do you fear and why regarding COVID-19? And so for me, this is a twofold question that I can look at from a couple of angles. Who and what do you fear? Now, I may not admit openly that I fear COVID-19, right? However, when I look at my behavior, when I contributed to contracting COVID-19, you would have thought that I did not have any fear. I did not wear my mask all the time. I wasn't washing my hands consistently, and definitely not 20 seconds at a time, right? I did not take heed to I went out to public places. I went to family gatherings, right? So you would have thought that I did not have any fear regarding COVID-19 by my actions. But let me tell you something that we examine in recovery from a 12-step program. What we don't reveal, right? Is things that we are concealing. So my behavior may have said, I'm not taking this COVID-19 seriously, but let me tell you, deep down inside me, yes, I fear it. I fear that I may die. I fear that it could happen to me, but for whatever reason, I want to suppress it. I don't want to reveal it. I want to ignore that fear, that reality, that girlfriend, you could die. Your grandchildren could have died, huh? So why wouldn't I want to reveal that? Why wouldn't I want to reveal that? And so once I reveal that, expose it, and apply these 12 spiritual principles, then my behavior will change, and my insides and my outsides will match, right? And so it says, and how do you respond destructively and negatively to your fears? And I just mentioned, I will conceal that I don't want nobody to see me. It's important for me to show you my face, and wearing a mask just makes me look, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right, and I'm not worried about it. But how do I respond destructively and negatively to my fears? Most of us ignore it. We suppress it. But here, during this conversation and getting in touch with the 4th step, made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. So let's go back to where those fears, of concealing, not wanting to share the fear, not wanting to acknowledge the fear, not wanting to address the fear, right? When did it all start? That's why going back as far as we can remember to when that fear was started. I can tell you where mine started from my dad. Yes, my dad instilled so much fear in us, right? That he dared us to move. He dared us to speak. Then I also experienced telling the truth. And then when I told the truth, somebody got hurt. So then I became fearful of telling the truth, right? And so that's why going back to our, as far back as we can to identify where that character of fear was formulated. Because in recovery, we say, this is what we say. We say, let me say, we can say for the acronym of fear is to uck everything and run. That's what we used to do in our addiction. And so that's what a lot of us are saying with this COVID-19, who like me, refuse to wear a mask, don't want to wash their hands. You can't tell me what to do. F it. I'm going to do what I want to do, right? So because I had that attitude, ideas, and behaviors, right, I contributed to contracting COVID-19. Okay? And I infected some of my grandchildren, other family members, right? And so when I look at the destruction and the negativity of those fears that I did not want to conceal, but to show and act like I'm okay, that it ain't going to happen to me, wow. Different outcome when you contracted. So listen, let's go to the next question. Who or what do you feel ashamed or guilty about? Now, this is what gets me. Listen, y'all. Who or what do you feel ashamed or guilty about? So if you can't answer the question, let me give you my answer to that question. Who or what do you feel ashamed of? Let's start with that. Who or what do you feel ashamed of regarding COVID-19? Twofold again. I can feel ashamed when I go out in public and people don't see my beautiful face or what I want them to see. I'm ashamed that I'll be judged differently. I won't be accepted the same way. But guess what, y'all? Some of them might even have a mask on and they're looking at me like, why don't you have a mask on, right? Oh, no, you got to see how I look, right? And so after contracting and surviving COVID-19 and applying this inventory, I see that I for some reason, my ego and my pride felt wounded in order for me to wear a mask, right? Now, when members of my family contracted COVID-19 as a result of some of my decisions, some of my choices that were bad in nature, I felt guilty. When my two grandchildren, one was 8 and one was 10, when they were quarantined together, I went in their room to give them breakfast and to help them with their virtual learning. And I started wearing a mask. I had them put on the mask. I came out to my other grandchildren with my mask on, washing my hands. I did that a couple times, but after a while, listen, I stopped doing that. And guess what? When all 6 of us got tested again, the 2 who contracted it initially tested negative, but 2 more tested positive. So I felt guilty about that. All right, regarding this COVID-19. And so when we do this inventory, listen, we are digging deep. We want to know not what's wrong with us. Because some people, and I even may say, like we did in our addiction, what's wrong with you? Can't you see that the drinking and drugging is killing you? Can't people are telling you, Edwina, what happened to you, right? Oh, that was the right question. Not what's wrong with you, but what happened to you. And so before I go any deeper in that, let me continue with this last section, this last question. It says, what feelings do you have the most trouble allowing yourself to feel? And how do you act out? Listen to that question. What feelings do you have the most trouble allowing yourself to feel? I'm going to say fear. Fear. Yes, fear. Fear. That's the most troubling, right? I don't want to admit that I'm afraid. I don't want to see, I don't want to show my vulnerability. I don't want to show humility. I have fear. What feelings do you have the most trouble allowing yourself to feel? But see, this is the hit, y'all. When I expose that I am fearful, there is a freedom that we in a 12-step program experience, because for the first time, I can reveal what's been concealed. I can, and this is our next step. I can say that even though I was jealous, even though I felt insecure, even though I felt this, I felt that, but the bottom line is I was fearful that I wouldn't be enough. I was fearful that you wouldn't like me. I was fearful that I didn't belong. I was fearful. And so most of us have the most troubling feeling that we have is expressing our fear about something. And that's where the 12-step programs come in, because it says, if we don't recognize our fear, we'll keep running, we'll keep hiding. It will still be suppressed. No, we need to give fear this acronym: face everything and recover. Face everything and recover. Face everything and rejoice. Face everything and rebuild. Face everything and be restored. That's the acronym for fear, because we know that fear is the underlying, it's the underlying character defect of all the character defects that we have. Fear. What feelings do you have the most trouble allowing yourself to feel? And then ask yourself, and how do you act out? Have you ever wondered why people act a certain way, do certain things? They are acting out their fear, which they do not want to admit, which I do not want to admit. So I'm acting out. And some people say, Edwina, what are you going through? Why do you act like that? Well, I'm not going to admit that I'm fearful. So therefore, I'm going to act like I'm not afraid and do some destructive and stupid things. And so that's why these recovery principles are so important. And I want to summarize what we have been doing regarding the 4th step, okay? And that was just one example of how applying these 12 steps that are spiritual in nature can challenge the way we think, can challenge the way we feel, can challenge our belief system, can challenge our existing mindset, so that we can say, to thy own self be true. In recovery, we say, be true to yourself, be honest at the very start. And we also say that the sooner I tell myself the truth, the sooner I can get better. The sooner I address, admit, acknowledge all of my fears, I can learn to face everything and recover instead of F everything and run. What? Run back to drinking? Run back to drugging? Oh, hell to the no. We learn in recovery not to give anything or anybody that much power ever again to get us and take us back to drinking and drugging. And guess what? It says making progress and not perfection. So that's why, particularly that 7th step, when I fall short on my attitudes, ideas, and behaviors, I humbly ask him to remove my shortcomings. And when I applied to COVID-19, even though I had this information from the start, but did not apply it to COVID-19, so even with a person who has time in this program, who has been practicing these principles in all my affairs, there were days that I took this COVID-19 for granted. There were days that I was rebellious and defiant. I was egotistical, right? I was stubborn. I was self-centered. I was selfish. And therefore, I contributed to contracting COVID-19. But it was my Creator that delivered me for the purpose of sharing my experience, my strength, my hope, my wisdom, my lack of wisdom, my bad choices, my bad decisions regarding COVID-19, but now I'm applying them to my attitudes, ideas, behaviors, decisions, and choices now. So you better believe my grandchildren, members of my family, listen, I done got so used to wearing a mask. My one of my grandchildren say, "Grandma, take the mask off. You in bed, right?" Or, "Grandma, why you still got the mask on?" Listen, I ain't gonna say I'm paranoid or anal, but I done got so used to wearing it. And because in recovery, they say if you want to form a good habit, if you want to form a habit, and research has substantiated it, that 90 days of doing the same thing and can create a habit. So we want to create positive habits. And so as a result of that, I've been able to apply these 12 spiritual principles to COVID-19. I would like to start a COVID-19 12-step group, a COVID-19 support group, and I've been sharing with you some information along the way. So let me conclude by reading to you what Jason Waller's, Jason, his breakdown, and to kind of summarize yet again what this whole 4th step really is saying. And this is from the words of Jason Waller. We are applying it to COVID-19, but this was the foundation and why we are applying the 12 spiritual principles to COVID-19. So listen, I'm going to read as much as I can, all right? It says, made a searching and fearless more inventory of ourselves. Step 4 of AA's 12-step program of recovery is infamously the scary one, probably because it is a crucial step towards effective and lasting recovery. Since the overall philosophy of Alcoholics Anonymous is that alcoholism is just a symptom of a spiritual disease, the real problem is in character flaws that need to be faced and, when possible, overcome. This requires a searching, bear it all revelation inducing inventory that will become the blueprint of your success. We have so much to gain. The benefits of completing step 4 are strengthened sobriety, spiritual growth, and movement towards mending your relationship to your higher power, yourself, and other human beings. What's the biggest requirement for this action step? Be honest. You and the people around you will benefit from this crucial step. In case you didn't know, keeping secrets is threatening to our recovery, and we have all had secrets that nearly killed us. Our secrets in and out of sobriety keep us sick. Almost everyone comes into recovery having trouble separating fact from friction in our own lives. The reality is that the drunken logs and war stories that accumulated over the years of using are so embroidered into the fabric of whom we think we are. However, while working on our step inventories, we get a new perspective on the bigger picture, on patterns, selfishness, our responsibility in situations. And in this process, we are building up an accurate self appraisal with true self worth as the reward. How do we break down the step 4? At this point, it has probably become pretty clear to you that recovery is a process of steady personal growth and enlightenment that feels so good. You probably wish everyone you know knew were doing it. Although you may be pink clouding it and enjoying the clarity that comes from sobriety, the truth is that our past addiction crippled our ability to reflect honestly about our lives. Addiction created delusional thinking that limited our ability to understand the damage and havoc, the liabilities, and it caused in our relationships. So before we could safely move forward, we needed a framework through which we could sort out our past honestly. The step work. The inventory you will do in step 4 of AA will help you to identify negative thoughts, emotions, and actions that have ruled your life. In the past, you will probably justify bad behavior and blame to other people, places, or things for the problems you had created. Now you will begin to take responsibility for all of your past and current actions. This may mean even acknowledging painful, embarrassing, or difficult events, thoughts, emotions, or actions. But that's cool. It's all good because your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs are actually the roots of your addictive behaviors. While writing out your inventory, you will want to examine all tendencies towards resentments, fear, pride, anger, self will, self pity, guilt, shame, relationships, abuse, secrets, assets, and the list goes on. And so the last section I want to read before I close, how to do an inventory. So how do you actually do a personal inventory? Most of the people you will be relying on to guide you through step 4 probably believe there is no exact right or wrong way to practice this step. I think that what is important is that we follow the general principle of self-honesty and that we are willing to be searching and fearless in the pursuit of truth. By the way, when we say fearless, we do not mean you will have no feelings of fear. Fearless means you will not let your fear stop you from being thorough in your inventory process. With step 4, it means you commit to rigorous honesty as you focus on events in your life, including your own weaknesses and specifically not on anyone else's weaknesses. So, if it's God's will that we are joined and united on day 61, I pray that he breathes life into me and to you and wakes us up because God uses broken people like me and like you to rescue broken, shattered, and wounded people like me and like you. So I ask the question again. Are you being proactive regarding COVID-19? Are you being reactive to COVID-19, or are you yet inactive to COVID-19, or are you now being responsible regarding COVID-19? Are you in the restoration mode of COVID-19? Are you in the intervention mode of COVID-19, or are you in the restoration mode of COVID-19? Ask yourself these questions. There, by the grace of God, there go I. I thank God. He saved me and my loved ones in order to help save you and your loved ones. If we do this individually and collectively, we can and will stop the perpetuation of the devastating effects, impact, outcome, and fatalities of COVID-19. Be blessed and most of all, be safe. Okay? So let me put up my resources so you can see where this information is coming from, because I believe in giving credit to where credit is due. Be safe.